Okay, Nesivos Shalom on Purim. Sorry that we're doing this remotely this week. Something came up, but we're going to learn a piece from the Nesivos Shalom. It's not from the regular red volumes of the Nesivos Shalom that we've been using. There are some contrasim that they put out, other mamarim of the Nesivos Shalom. So there's one called Mamari Purim. It's a small booklet. If you have it, this is on page Samaches. If you don't have it and you'd like to follow along inside, you can text me or email me, WhatsApp me, and I will send you copies of the pages. So this is on page Samaches in this kuntris, and it's entitled Vayom Elu Niskarim Benasim B'chol Dar V'Dar. And this is the Nesivos Shalom starts off with the pasuk. The pasuk is in Perek Tes of the Megillah, pasuk Chav Ches. It says Vayomim ha'ela niskarim v'nasim. These days, article translated is consequently these days should be remembered and celebrated b'chol dar v'dar, in every single generation, mishpacha, every family, Medina, every province, every city, and the days of Purim should never cease amongst the Jews, and their remembrance should never perish from their descendants. So the Nesivos Shalom points out, the Rabbi points out, so the illumination of the days of Purim are in every single generation. L'Rabbis, which comes to include Dairis Yerudim Mugusham, even the lowest and most physical, most materialistic generations. Even the lowest generations that have been like almost completely cut off, God forbid. Mishpacha. So that's what it means. B'chol dar v'dar. What is a mishpacha? Every family. Gam mishpacha shnisraknu v'snatku l'gamri. Even those families that are very distant from Hashem and completely cut off. And he goes v'ir v'chulu and continues in all these ideas. In other words, even those people, even those Jews who are so distant from Hashem, the days of Purim still illuminate. It still have an effect. Hayom me'elim niskarim v'nasim l'chulam. That these days are remembered and celebrated by all of them. Purim meir l'chol Yisrael l'dorosehem, that Purim will illuminate for every Jew in every generation. Afilu le'elu adoris hachashuchim, even those darkest generations, v'mishpachas hashruyas b'cheshkas, and those families that are embedded, enmeshed in darkness. V'yemei Purim elu lo yavru mitoch haYehudim, and the days of Purim will never cease amongst the Jewish people. V'zichrom lo yosef mizarim, and as the pasuk concludes, their remembrance will never perish from their descendants. He says, Kamoisha Amar Harebi HaKadosh of Baruch Mezhbizh Chuzelenu. This was Baruch of Mezhbizh, was a grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. He's quoting. He says, Al Maimer Chazal, the Gemara tells us in Megillah Daf Yud Zayin, Hakeres HaMegillah Mafreya. If somebody reads the Megillah, the word Mafreya in Halacha means out of order. If somebody reads the Megillah out of order, reads it backwards, Lo Yotze, he's not Yotze. But the Baruch of Mezhbizh explained, the Mafreya Pirish Shakar Megillah Betur Maisa Shahoya Pam Im Achashverosh Haman. That Lamafreya means backwards, but also means something like from the beginning, meaning that if a person reads the Megillah, just as it's some ancient story, some old historical story that happened once with a character named Achashverosh and a character named Haman. So says the Baruch, the Gemara is telling us, La Yotza, if that's how you read it, if you think that the Megillah has nothing to do with you, it's just some ancient story, and we're celebrating some victory, so you're not Yotza the whole mitzvah of Purim. Kitzarach lichiyos lahargish ates kol parshas Megillah. A person has to live and feel right now, this year. In a few days, we're going to be reading the Megillah. We have to feel that the story is happening to us. We have to feel the pain and the suffering of this gzera of destroying the Jewish people. In the Megillah, Haman arranged for Achashverosh to issue a decree to destroy the Jewish people. We have to feel that pain. We have to feel that suffering. And especially now with what's going on in Eretz Yisrael, it's a little bit easier this year maybe than other years to feel that pain, to feel what it means when the Jewish people, there's an existential threat against the Jewish people, against our homeland. There's goydel simchas hanes she'asakash baruch Ham Yisrael, and we also have to experience, as we read the Megillah, and the great miracle, the great v'nahapachu, the overturning of this decree. We have to experience that. We have to feel joy in that decree. Without doing that, without feeling it in our lives, we were not yotze, we have not fulfilled our obligation of the day. This is a portion of the essence of the day. We have to know right, that we have to know that the illumination is drawn into and illuminates every generation, every family. Chazal says, quotes a Chazal that says, Kol hamayadim yu b'telim. When Mashiach comes, all of the other holidays, all of the other Yom Tovim will be nullified. We won't be celebrating Pesach and Shavuos and Sukkot anymore. But if Yemei Purim layu niftalim la'olam. But the days of Purim will never be bottled. We will continue to celebrate that. Why? How do you know this? Because it says in the pasuk, "Shneimar v'yimei Purim ha'ela lo yavru mitoch Yehudim." These days will never go away. Our pasuk, v'zichrom liyosim mizarim. The pasuk says that it will never end. Purim will never end. It doesn't say it will never end until Mashiach comes. It says in the pasuk, Purim will never end. That means it will never end. Shemashmoyos advarim shebepurim yesh nitzchias. That Purim has a eternalness, lahar b'chol doros chol mishpachos v'chol ir v'ir, that for every generation, every family, every city. Sharas b'mei Purim me'ir l'chol Yehudi heichon shehu b'matzav machin nemuchim. That the illumination, the light of Purim, will illuminate for every Jew, no matter where he is, even if he's in the lowest point we can imagine. Purim can reach him. V'zichrom lo yosef mizayim, and it will never cease. Now he says, "V'hine hadgosha zu shematzinu b'chag Purim." This emphasis, this idea that we see on Purim, shemitzvoisei b'chol dor, mishpacha, medina, v'ir, v'chol shana v'shana, that this has every generation. It's relevant to every generation, every family, every province, every city, every year. You don't have this kind of language in the pasuk by any other yontif. That means that it has something unique. There's something about the illumination of Purim that is connected to the essence of every generation, every family, and so on. Hainu shalafi that based on the conditions and the events that are going on in each generation, each family, in each city, there's an illumination of Purim. Because the essence of this holiday of Purim, is the revelation of the love between Hashem and the Jewish people. Like the Medrash tells us in Shir Hashirim, that's a pasuk that says that great waters can't extinguish the love, but the Medrash explains, and this is so relevant for what Klal Yisrael is going through now, that as much as the nations of the world might try to extinguish the love between Hashem and the Jewish people, they can't do it. The Medrash in Esther says, that if somebody's willing to give all of the treasures of his household, all of his wealth. The Medrash is referencing a pasuk in Shir Hashirim. It's in Perek Ches of Shir Hashirim, pasuk Zayin. It says that Mayim Rab Lo Yuchel Chabes Ab. It's the same pasuk, right? That flood waters can't quench the love of the Hashem to the Jewish people, and the Haras Leish Tefuhu, and rivers can't drown it. And Yitain Ishas Kol Hain Beisai. If a man offered all of his wealth for love, Boiz Yevuzalai, he would be laughed to scorn. And says the Medrash Al Hamana Rasha. So the Medrash in Esther says that pasuk is referring to Hamana Rasha. Shenosan Aseres Alafim Kikar Kesef Lahachides Yisrael. He gave all of his money. He gave a fortune of money, right? Tens of thousands of talents of silver to destroy the Jewish people. He ended up being a laughing stock. This revelation of Purim, of the love between Hashem and the Jewish people, has different periods in time. There are times of bright illumination, of shining, of where Hashem's glory shines on the Jewish people. Hashem, and you could see every step of the salvation of Hashem. Right? We know that Esther, the word Esther, is connected to concealment. There's times of concealment. Now, whether we're going through a bright time when the glory of Hashem is clear on the Jewish people, successful times of the Jewish people, or we're going through difficult, dark times, no matter what, these days inspire and awaken this love and this closeness of Hashem. Valderech Maimer Moran Beis Avram Zchuzleni quotes the Shlom Rebbe, the Beis Avram al Pasuk. It says in the Pasuk, Moshe Nigesh al Arafel, right in Parshas Yisro, right after the Aseret Adibras, it says that Moshe went to the Arafel, to the fog, to the dense cloud, thick clouds. Asher Sham Elokim, that's where Hashem was. Sheyeh Sholos Bechina Shel Cheshkas. So he explains that the Beis Avram explained that there's three types of darkness that are used, and the Torah uses three different words for them. He says that Anon, cloud, is cheshkus katana. That's a smaller darkness. That's a slight darkness. Choshech v'choshech cheshkus yoysa chazaka. Then you have the word choshech, which means something more dark. V'arafel, this dense cloud, this fog, hu cheshkus yoysa gedayla. That's even a greater. It's even a stronger darkness. Ad she'ef shelamashes, so you could almost touch it. You could. It's a thick cloud. It's something that you could feel. Moshe Gila, Moshe revealed by saying that he went in. The pasuk says that Moshe Nigesh al Arafel, Moshe went in. V'sham Elokim, Hashem was there. Moshe Gila shegam becheshka shel bechinas Arafel. Even this terrible darkness, the most severe darkness, Sham Elokim, Hashem is there. Sham avasoi v'ashkachasei yisbarach elamai. There, Hashem's love and His divine providence on His people is found there also. V'agilui hazen is gal b'Purim. This revelation happens on Purim. Shemayim rab lo yuchlu chabes zava. That even great waters cannot extinguish this love. Shafil b'matzav kazeh shayu b'si hashiflus. Even in this place where the Jewish people were at the pinnacle of darkness, of degradation. Sheshtachvul utzelam, they bowed down, as the Gemara in Megillah tells us that's what they were punished for. They bowed down to an avodah zarah, v'nenu misudas shel Achashverosh, and they enjoyed the Suda, the feast of Achashverosh. Nizgala goydel haflogos avasa yisbarach. Even after we behaved so badly, yet there Hashem reveals how much He loved us. Ki roitz Hashem b'amay, that Hashem wants His people, ve'in tam baratz, and it's unconditional love. Hashem doesn't need a reason to love us. He loves us unconditionally, even if we don't deserve it, even if we bow down to avodah zarah, even if we went to the party of Achashverosh. V'ha'ava she'ena tlui b'davar. It's unconditional. It doesn't depend on any factor. Right? Like a love between a parent and a child. It's not dependent on whether the child behaves or not. Hashem loves us. V'zeh mavur ma'shenera kastir l'chayra. And now we can explain something that seems to be something that's a stira, something that's a conflict. On the one hand, as we quoted earlier, Chazal tell us that all the other Yom Tovim will be abolished, but Purim will not. Which tells us that Purim is the most important. It's above all the other Yom Tovim. But yet the Gemara in Megillah Daf Yudal tells us, why don't we say Halal on Purim? Right? Other Yom Tovim, Chanukah, even we say Halal. Why don't we say it on Purim? Because even after the Nes of Purim, we were still under Achashverosh's rule. We were not free from Achashverosh. It doesn't seem to have the full force of a holiday. We don't say Halal because we were still servants of Achashverosh. So is Purim greater than the other Yom Tovim? Then we should certainly say Halal. But you see, we don't say Halal because it's not as great. It wasn't a complete redemption. It says the Nesivos Shalom, the answer comes from the steer itself. This is the essence of the holiday. That the very nature of Purim comes from this disappointment that we're still Achashverosh's servants. We're still in a situation where we can't say Halal. We have such a great miracle, we experience such a great miracle, but we can't say Halal because we're still servants of Achashverosh. But Matzah says, so we feel dejected, we feel discouraged, we feel that we had this great miracle, this great salvation, but it wasn't a full salvation. The beauty of the amazing thing of Purim is that nevertheless, even though it's not the way you want it, but you see the great love that Hashem has for you. You see that even in this low place where you are, even if you feel like you're pushed away, even if you feel like you're disconnected from Hashem still loves you. That great waters can't extinguish that love. And that he goes on to explain. The Gemara, famous Gemara in Shabbos, we always talk about kimu v'kiblu shekimu ma shekiblu kvar dehad kiblu baratzin. That in the story of Purim, right, it says a few psukim earlier than the pasuk we said before. It says kimu v'kiblu. I'm looking for pasuk of Zayin. Literally the pasuk before. It says kimu v'kiblu Yehudim aleim. Right, that the Jewish people got up and they reaccept it. And the Gemara says that ki kibla haTorah b'maimin aniskala harsina haisa mitoich haragedola shebepanim panim dibra sheimachem. That the Gemara over there explains that, right? That we know that on by Matan Torah, without getting into it, but by Shavuos, by Har Sinai, there was a certain forced element of Kabbalas HaTorah. But and part of that is that we saw everything so clearly. Then we experienced all these miracles. It's almost as we didn't have a choice of whether we should accept the Torah. When you see things so clearly, you don't have a choice to say we're not accepting the Torah. We're on the next page for those who are following inside, on top of page Samach Tes. And then in the days of Achashverosh, Shakati Abd Achashverosh, when we were still slaves to Achashverosh, things were not clear. Yes, we had this great miracle, but we know that the miracles of Purim were not open miracles. It wasn't like Hanukkah where the oil burned for 8 days. Right? Everything was within nature. Yet, nevertheless, in these situations, nevertheless, we accepted the Torah. We accepted the Torah with love and with desire. And just like Klal Yisrael accepted it, so is it true with every detail. In every generation, every year, Purim illuminates, the light of Purim illuminates every soul of a Jewish person, whatever he's going through. Right? There are years when things feel bright, and there are times when things feel dark. Right? Whether it's a good year for Klal Yisrael or in what person's particular life, or a bad year, right? Hayom me'elu me'irim benefesh ruach neshama, all the different levels of the soul. Ki yesh elikim bekirba, it illuminates for us that Hashem is inside of us. Ki mayim rab lo yuchbul chabes ahava, and nothing in the world can extinguish that love. V'zeh shamru Chazal. That's what Chazal say in the Gemara in Megillah and Daf Dalet in Eim Shalaniyim Nesivos Shalom Megillah. When the Gemara is talking about different times when we celebrate different things, if you the Gemara in the beginning of Megillah, it talks about the 5 different days that different parts of Purim can be celebrated on. It says that the eyes of the poor people long for Mikra Megillah. That's the reason why we give Matanas Levyonim the same day that we read the Megillah, because that's when the Aniyim, the poor people, are looking forward. They're waiting anxiously for their tzedakah, the Matanas Levyonim. Al Pi Madis Beis Avram, he says, he quotes the Beis Avram, the previous Shalom Rebbe, earlier Shalom Rebbe, Be'inino Chanukah, by Chanukah. Okay, we'll just go through this one quickly. This paragraph, Mashmas HaBracha Shalom Avarchim Sha'asani Shalom Avesenu B'Yom HaHem B'Zman Hazeh. Right? Why do we say by the bracha of Chanukah that Hashem did miracles for our fathers in those days and our days? Al Derech Mashal, he says, he gives an example. There's a child who's a really rebellious child, and he's not doing anything that his father wants. Now he needs something, and he really would love to go to his father and ask him, but he realizes, how could I have the chutzpah to go ask my father? I haven't been listening to my father, I've been rebelling against my father, I've been misbehaving. So what he does is he reminds his father, remember years ago you used to do all these great things for me, you used to give me all these gifts. And through this, his father realizes, without him having the chutzpah to ask directly, his father realizes, he needs something. And he's embarrassed, and his father appreciates that maybe he's embarrassed to ask. Even though he doesn't deserve anything, his father would be right to tell him no. But his father, by reminding his father of their earlier relationship, of the earlier days, it inspires inside the father a desire to help the child. That's what we do on Chanukah. We remind Hashem of the good old days, of the good times. Right, so that Hashem Shakavona, our intent is that Hashem we're trying to inspire that Hashem should do nisim like He did for our fathers. That's why the eyes of the poor people long for Mikra Megillah. They're waiting for Mikra Megillah. Elu aniyim doesn't mean people who are financially poor. It means aniyim bedas, people who are poor in their mind. Shekol yimei ani royim vafilu b'shabbos v'chagim. Right, that a poor person doesn't really enjoy. Think about a physically poor person doesn't enjoy Shabbos and Yontiv as the way somebody who can afford to have some extra delicacies. Right, v'rak einayim nesuis l'mikra Megillah shekol hapoish yad noisen. But on Purim it's different. So on a regular Shabbos or Yontif, where a person has to relate to Hashem on a higher level, so the person who's an ani bedas, just like the ani who's poor can't afford to buy good things on Shabbos, the ani who doesn't feel like Hashem, he's deserving of Hashem's kindness, Also doesn't feel like he could ask Hashem on Shabbos or Yom Tov for anything special. But on Purim, the halacha is that whoever reaches out your hand, you have to give, right? During the year when somebody asks you for tzedakah, you could ask all kinds of questions. Is it the best place for me to give my tzedakah? Should I give tzedakah to this person? Is he deserving? But on Purim, we have a halacha. Whoever reaches out his hands, whoever stretches out his hand, you give him. And that was what Esther asked when Achashverosh asks Esther at the Suda, the second Suda with Haman. He asks her, what do you want? She asks, I want my life, my soul, my life is my request, and I want my life as my request, and my people, my nation as my petition. That's what I'm asking for. So we're asking for that also on Purim. Just like when a poor person comes to us, if he stretches out his hand, we have to give him something. So we ask Hashem also. We know we're not deserving, but it's Purim, and we're reaching out our hands. Give me my life as my request, and give me my people as my bakasha. Yom Eluhem azman lifol Yeshua lematzavim kashim b'chai heprat b'chai Am Yisrael. This is so important with what we're going through. But says the Rabbi that these days of Purim are the time we can affect salvations for the most difficult situations in our private lives, in our individual lives, and in the life of Klal Yisrael, in the Jewish nation, right? Which we know Klal Yisrael needs tremendous Yeshua. Once again, the nations of the world, some of them, many of them, even if they're not physically trying to do it, but we see where our support system since October 7th has gone running for the hills in many places, right? So we're asking for our lives and for the lives of our nation. Yeshua, because on these days of Purim, the gates of redemption are open, v'rachamim, and compassion, le'elu le'el mikol dagin, higher than all other levels, any other time of the year. Sherevach v'atzal lamed Yehudim. They were asking Hashem, that as Mordechai told Esther when she was reluctant to go into Achashverosh, that the Jewish people's salvation, their rescue will come. It'll come from another place. From the highest places. These are the days of Purim. The idea of Purim is to draw from those days of Mordechai and Esther to nowadays. Al Yedei, how do we do that? Through Emunah and Bitachon Chazak B'Hashem. We have to work on our Emunah and our Bitachon, our Emunah, our faith, and our reliance on Hashem in a very strong way. We have to have strong emunah and betachon. Shekol koivecha lo yevaishu v'lo yikom lanetzach kol hachosim bach. Those are words from the Shoshanas Yaakov that we sing after the Megillah, which translate as, all who hope in you will not be shamed, nor ever be humiliated, taking refuge in you. Right? That we're saying to Hashem, that we trust in you. When our emunah and our bitachon b'Hashem chazakim are strong, ein shum koyach ba'olam. This is such important words. We should post this up on posters. Is no power in the world sheyuchal l'natzech es Am Yisrael. Nothing can defeat the Jewish people. So we were all walking around for the last 5 months wondering what we can do. We have to work on our emunah and betachon, because when our emunah and betachon are strong, nothing can defeat us. And we see the emunah and betachon coming out by soldiers who maybe had nothing to do with Yiddishkeit. You hear words of emunah and betachon. All of Klal Yisrael has come together for the most part, and you see this constant idea of davening, tehillim, learning, turning to Hashem. That's emunah and betachon. V'chol es gabras hasitra achra hila pilim biyish. And what is the side of evil try to do? How do they defeat us then? If we stick with our emunah and betachon, how does the side of evil get us? Getting us to do averos wouldn't do it. If we have emunah and betachon, that wouldn't do it. So what do they try to do? They try to make us fall into yish, into despair. They attack us in our emunah and our betachon. They attack us with all kinds of news reports, with all kinds of calls to that Israel is the aggressor, with all kinds of things. They try to weaken our emunah and betachon. And people talk like this. Unfortunately, we're human. We get this. What's going to be this resolution of this? The answer is, the resolution is Hashem, emunah and betachon. Right? We know the story in the Megillah that the night before the beginning of Haman's downfall, so Haman goes home and he asks his wife and his advisors, what do we do? What do I do about this Mordechai? Kol zayin and shavali. When I see Mordechai in the not bowing down to me, nothing I have is worthwhile, right? Which itself is a whole nother shir. The guy had everything in the world except for one Jew who wasn't bowing down to him, and he says it's all not worth anything to him. And this is in Parak Hey. What does his wife advise him? Parak Hey, the last pasuk Yudalid. V'atomer lezeres ishtay v'cholei havav. And what do they tell him? His wife and all of his friends said to him, Yasu eitz gavoya chamishim amma. Make a tree 50 amas high. V'boiker emel lamelech, and go talk to the king in the morning. V'yislas Mordechai love, and you'll hang Mordechai love and on it. And then v'vayim melech l'mishta. When you go to the party, samech v'yitev samech, you'll go happy. V'yitev adav l'fnei Haman v'yas eitz. So says asks the Nesivos Shalom. He goes. Zeresh tells him, hang Mordechai. Why does it have to be on a tree 50 amas high? What's the difference how high the tree is? If you hang somebody, as long as it's taller than he is, who cares how tall it is? Does it make a difference if it's 10 feet high or 50 feet high or 150 feet high? It makes no difference. The guy will hang. So why is she telling him 50 amas high? Who cares how high it is? He says that this is brought by many Svarim, based on Kabbalah, Shar Chamishim Distrachahu Kfira Viyush, that the 50th gate, right? We know that in on the side of good there's 50 levels, right? We know that the Jews were on the 4, and in Tumah there's 50 levels. There's 49 levels of Tumah that the Jewish people were in Mitzrayim. What's the 50th level of the other side, of the side of evil? That is Kfira, denying Hashem's existence, and Yiyush, and despair. Right? They Haman. Therefore, they advised Haman. Rosh Haklipas. Haman is the head of Amalek. He's the head of all of the negative husks, all the side of evil. Sheyapel oisei bekfira v'yush. You want to beat the Jews? You got to get them involved in kfira, in denying, in not thinking about their relationship with Hashem, and despair. Right? If you want to defeat the Jews, that's what you have to do. You have to get them to give up, because as long as they hold on to Emunah B'tachon, you're going to have a problem. So 50 amas, it doesn't matter how high the tree is, but 50 amas will put them into Yish. That's attacking them on the 50th level. As long as their Emunah is strong in Hashem, nobody can touch us. And what happens afterwards? They saw that Mordechai's emunah was able to defeat this. Right? I always say this, and I know you're not really supposed to have a favorite pasuk, but I always say my favorite pasuk in the Megillah is. Right, they gave him this advice the night before. The next day is the whole story with he thought he was going to be honored by the king, and he ends up having to lead Mordechai and give Mordechai this honor, and then his daughter dumps the garbage on him. Right, and he comes back to his wife and he tells them what happened. Right, this is just yesterday. They're telling him to go kill Mordechai, and what do they tell him here? This is pasuk Vav, pasuk Yud Gimel. It says V'yisaper Haman l'zeresh ishtay l'cholei avav. Haman comes and tells the same people who gave him the advice to try to kill Mordechai yesterday, and that you'll be good and you'll be happy. He tells the same people what happened. It's Kol Shakro, what happened to him. And they say to him, so the same people tell him, oh, in Mizera Yehudim Mordechai, if Mordechai is from the descendants of the Jews, if he's from the Jewish people, you start to fall before him. You're not going to be able to defeat him. You're going to fall before him. And I always love that pasuk, because the same people last night are giving him this advice. Yeah, go after Mordechai, kill him. Today they go, oh, he's a Jew, you're in trouble. What does that mean? What changed? So the Rabbi here explains this. What they were saying to him is that we wanted you to hang him on the 50 Amma high tree. We wanted you to attack him in his emunah. If he has no vulnerability, Mordechai showed that he had no vulnerability there. Mordechai wasn't budging. Mordechai stuck strong in his emunah. Now they say, if Mordechai is so strong in his emunah, like a true Jew, like a strong, faithful Jew, then now you're done. Because we were hoping there was a vulnerability in Mordechai's emunah, and if you could attack him there, then you could defeat him. But if his emunah is strong, like a Jew's emunah is supposed to be, you're done. There's nothing you can do. Now you can't defeat him, because this is the guarantee that we're talking about. That if our emunah is strong, our bitachon is strong, they can't touch us no matter what they try. This is the power, says the Rebbe, of the nation of Mordechai. Even in the times of concealment and of darkness. That there's nobody even screaming out the great cry. Hare anu am Mordechai. Yet we don't even know what to scream out for. We don't even know what to daven for. What should Israel do with Gaza? What should I do with this difficulty in my life? Hare anu am Mordechai, but we're the am Mordechai. The power of emunah and bitachon is embedded, is enmeshed in the depths of our souls. Afilu b'shosha avim mechasim es or emunah. Even when the clouds conceal, they cover the light of emunah. The ein magishnes emunah b'payil. We can't even feel it in reality, in actuality. K'mayim maran hasabek elisha Melechowitz, right, which we know he quotes all the time. It was the first Lama Rebbe's Rebbe that he said Shehudi tzarich lahamin. So this is amazing. This to me, this whole thing is this is the key, because a person says, okay, this is great. So I know for Purim I'm supposed to work on our emunah, and I want this emunah, but I have problems in my emunah. My emunah is not so strong. What should I do? I have trouble in my emunah. I don't have this strong emunah. So says the Lechovitzer, he says Shehudi tzarich lahamin. You know what happens if you feel like you can't tap into that emunah? You can't tap into that strong emunah. I don't feel like I have the emunah and betachon that Mordechai had. You have to believe that you have emunah. I have to have emunah that I have emunah. I have to know that my emunah is there, that I am from the Am Mordechai, that my emunah is deep inside of me. It's concealed from me right now. I'm having whatever, it's covered by the clouds, but it's there. Just like Moshe went into the Arafel to find Hashem, our emunah is buried within us. We have to have emunah that we have emunah. Even if it doesn't feel like I have such strong emunah, but I have to work on my emunah that I have emunah. And this thought has to penetrate. It has to penetrate my brain, my heart, my limbs. And through that we can draw down this way of Hashem conducting the world, this higher way of conducting, that it's higher than all nature and all order. And it doesn't matter what the world thinks, and it doesn't matter what military strategy says, that we know we tap into this and they can't touch us. Just like Hashem did for us in those days. Purim, we'll just finish up the last little bit here. Purim be'es mishta yayin. On Purim, at the time that we sit down, right? We know that Esther's Yeshua came at the party, at the Mishta Hayayin that she had. We know the beginning of Vashti's downfall was a Mishta Hayayin. the salvation came through a party, and we sit down every year and we have a Sudas Purim, Mishta Hayayin. We're supposed to drink wine. Eis Rava de Rav Mechines Achas B'Shana. This is the highest moment of the year, he says. That we sit down at the Suda of Purim, it's the highest moment of the year. Eis Malkoi Shel Olam Omer Yehudim Hashruim Behester Panim. Hashem, the King of the world, is saying to every Jew who finds himself in concealment, Ve'neim Nesues Kol Hashana L'Shagdei L'Zois, and we're like those Aniyim who are waiting all year for this moment. Ma Sheilosech U'ma Bakashosech. Just like Achashverosh asked Esther, what is your request? What is your petition? Right? What is it that you want? Right? What did Achashverosh say to Esther when he was sitting there with Haman? Esther, what is it that you want? Hashem is saying it to each of us during the Sudas Purim, and what's our response? Hashem is saying, what do you want? I'm ready, just like Achashverosh was ready to give Esther what she wanted. Hashem is saying to us, I'm ready to give you a one. What do we do? A Jew has to open up his closed heart and ask the same thing that Esther asked. What did Esther say? We quoted it before. Nafshi b'sheilasi, my request is my own life. Va'ami b'vakoshasi, and my nation is my petition. Ki nimkarnu, what did Esther say? Why was she explained to Achashverosh? Because I and my nation were sold to be destroyed and to be killed. B'shazu, at that moment that we're sitting at the Suda on Purim in a few days, there's so many things that we need to ask in our personal lives, for our very life itself. Whether it's things we need in our physical lives, we need health, we need parnasa, we need shidduchim, we need all kinds of things in our personal lives, right? We need all kinds of things that a person needs in his life. We need all those things. That's the nafshi, and also things that we need in my ruchnius. Hashem, help me, my midas. I've been working on certain midas, whether it's kas, whether it's kino, jealousy, anger, whether it's whatever yetzaharas I'm fighting. I need help, Hashem. I need help. I need help to deal with it. I need help to overcome that. So whether it's things, which are the three levels of soul, right? Whether in our personal lives, in my own life, there's so many things. Which person doesn't have thousands of things that we need? The children should grow up well. That I should be the right mechanech for my children. That we should have shalom bayis in the house. That I should get along with people. That I shouldn't. Right? All kinds of things. We all have our lists and lists of things that we need. And in ruchnius also, I want to learn better, but I don't have the patience to sit in front of a sefer. Hashem, help me with the patience. Hashem, I'm caught up with some silly averas. Please take those Yetzaharas away from me, or minimize, or at least show me how to overcome them. Right? All these things we need in our lives. Hashem, I want to daven better. I want to be able to feel your presence when I daven, but I don't seem to have the cheshek. Whatever it is, everybody knows their own challenges. I'm just giving a few examples. These things, our hearts hurt over them because they separate us, they cover and they interpose between us and our Father in Shemayim, right? We want these things because we want a better relationship with you. I want to daven because I want to connect to Hashem. No Jew deep down doesn't want to connect to Hashem. So many things get in the way. Help me remove those things. Help me overcome those things. I want my soul, my nefesh, I want my life as my request. And we know the Gemara tells us the pasuk Tilim Keli Lama Zaftani was said by Esther when she was walking into Achashverosh. That's what we say. Hashem, why have you abandoned me? Not chas v'shalom that Hashem would ever abandon us, but why do I feel like you abandoned me? How long are you going to hide your face from me? Right? These are all psukim that are connected to Megillas Esther. These are the requests that we're asking Hashem. How long do I have to go through life? I'm already 30 years old, 40 years old, 50, 80 years old, 90 years old. How long do I have to go through life feeling like all these barriers between me and my Father in Shemayim? Today is the day, as we learned, that Purim is the day that the vast waters, that we prove, that we see, that the vast waters can't extinguish the love between Hashem and the Jewish people. Hashem, I'm asking you for this on this day. I'm asking you for my life as my request. That I should feel anew your closeness. But when I ask for myself, nafshi, right? Esther said, nafshi b'sheilasi, ba'ami b'vakashasi. She'ela is a lower level of asking. So when I'm asking for myself, I'm asking a lower level. And this is so relevant with what's going on in Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael today. Vilu ikr bakashasi. Bakasha is like the thing that is critical. I can't live without this. Bakashi is the essential thing. When Esther was asking, she was asking for her own life, right? She was part of Haman's Gzera. But what was she mainly asking for? Esther would have gladly given up her own life to save the Jewish people. She risked giving up her own life when she went into Achashverosh. If he wouldn't have extended the scepter, she would have been killed. She was willing to risk her own life. Her real request, her bakasha, her essential request was, I want my people. Ve'ilu ikar bakashasi al-ami. This al-ami ef tzapeh is a line from Slichas that we say, for my nation I'll open my mouth. I'm begging for my people. I'm begging. My real bakasha, ba'ami ba'kashi can mekarnu ani ba'ami. Ve'enatzar shev b'nezek hamelech. He says, Esther said to Achashverosh, I don't. If it was anything less than this, than my life and the life of my people, I wouldn't be bothering you. It wouldn't be worth your time. But this is so. How can I go on? How can I stay silent? This is what we have to ask when we sit at the Suda. Right? Esther was sitting at the Suda, the Mishteh Hayayin. We're sitting at the Suda of Purim when the king is asking us what do we want. We have to say, I wouldn't bother you for small things. I'm not wasting your time with small things. I need the things so that I can. All those things that I'm asking you, my parnasa, my health, all these things that I'm asking you because it gets in the way of my relationship with you. I want all those things so that my relationship with you is good. And my people, when my people are at risk, how can I have my relationship with you? I want my relationship with you. That's worth the trouble of the king. That's worth the trouble of the king. We're asking Hashem, take away all these things that make it harder for me to feel my relationship with you, to feel your presence in my life. And then he says this, I don't know when he gave this shir originally, but he says, must be, I don't know how soon after the Holocaust it was, but it was fresh on his mind. In a generation that so much blood, there were so many rivers of blood in Europe and in Eretz Yisrael, right? And so that's if not as relevant, more relevant today. that we're still in a situation where we have physical enemies and we have spiritual enemies, enemies of our bodies, enemies of our soul. They're destined to destroy us, right? Our enemies don't just want to kill us; they want to eradicate us. They hate our Yiddishkeit also. It's not just a physical war. Anti-Semitism, I don't have to explain this. Everybody understands this inherently. It's not a physical hatred. There's something so deep about our spirituality that they just can't stand. And therefore, at the Mishteh Hayayin, when Esther's aunt Yeshua came, when Esther's salvation came, what's our request? We're begging Hashem to do miracles for us, just like Hashem did with Mitzrayim and did with Haman and did with the Greeks by Chanukah. All those miracles in those times, we want Hashem. We want to relive. Remember, we started this off that we have to. If we don't relive the story of Purim, so we're not Yotzeh. We don't fulfill our obligation. Here too, we want to relive it. Hashem, Hashem, we see the difficulties. You put us through a difficult moment in time in history, and we're sure we deserved it for whatever your cheshbon is. But we're asking you to take us through the whole Megillah. We feel the pain of the Megillah because we're living through some of the pain of the Megillah. We want to live through those nisim also. We want you to bring that around. Save our people. Nafshi b'shelasi u'be'ami b'akashasi. Anu chayim b'tkufas. The last few lines of this piece. It's on now. We're on page Ayin. If you're following inside. Anu chayim b'tkufa shekol ayin l'chot tetzapa. We're living through a time where every eye is yearning for you. Ve'neim shalnim nesuas liyom hazeh. Right. Every Jew in the world is waiting for this salvation now. Maybe we weren't last year. Maybe some of us were comfortable. But at this year, all of our comfort zones have been shattered. Nobody feels secure. No matter how much money we have, no matter how successful we are, no matter how comfortable we are, no Jew is feeling secure right now. And so we're the aniyim. We don't have that Yishuv Hadas that an usher has. We're like aniyim, regardless of how much is in your bank account, right? And all of the aniyim, our eyes are longing for that day, for Mikra Megillah, for the time when Hashem says Kol HaPoshit Yad, when Hashem says Ma she'leisech u'ma b'koshosech v'aderech lahamti kol adinim. So what's the way to sweeten all the judgments? Meitanu, from us, u'me'eis kol kal hadas Yisrael, and from the entire Jewish people. Hirak al yidei hamishta v'asimcha. Esther's Yeshua, the Yeshua of Klal Yisrael, came through Simcha, Mishta, and Simcha. Kamosh Amar Maran, Rabbi Kodesh, Rav Moshe of Kubrin, Zuchusing Lenu, Be'esh Shepartza Magefa Rachmel, when there was an outbreak of some kind of epidemic or something that I don't know exactly what the story was, but there was some Imtiu Besimcha. He said to them, so you think, right, when there's an Eis Tzara, that you think that I should be depressed and solemn. He says you have to be Besimcha, Tenatzlu Mikol Ra. You'll be saved from all Ra. If you're not besimcha, he doesn't even finish the sentence. And through this simcha, when we feel simcha, where does simcha come from? For a person to be truly happy, he has to have emunah betachan. If a person has full emunah betachan, then he can be happy, because even if he's going through something difficult, he knows that it's for the best, and he knows that he's in Hashem's hands, and he knows that Hashem's going to work it out. So a person has to tap into that simcha. We don't mean necessarily a silly simcha, but we mean a real simcha. A true simcha comes from a person who is secure in his emunah and betachan, who's working on his emunah and betachan, who turns to Hashem when he's going through a difficulty. That's the whole mitzvah of Purim. That's our mitzvah of Purim. Our mitzvah of Purim is to work on our emunah and betachan, to come to a level of simcha, so that when we sit down to the Suda, we're ready to answer the question. There's another Torah from the Nesivos Shalom that I thought about learning today, but it was too long, but where he talks about we have the opportunity to ask for critical, essential things. We shouldn't waste it. He gives the mashal of the kid, the prince who was sent away from the palace, and after many years, the king sends somebody to check on him, and he's not doing well at all. But the messengers say to the prince, okay, we can relay a request from your father. What is it that you want? And all the kid requests is, he says, oh, my boots are torn. Can you get me new boots? And the messengers cry. They say, how far has the prince fallen? That he has the opportunity to ask his father to bring him home, and everything will be fixed, and the boots will come with that. But instead, he becomes so small-minded. So we have to work on our emunah betachan and our simcha, so that when it comes time to the Suda, we think big. We beg for nafshi b'shelasi ami v'akashasi v'niska, and if we do this, we will merit l'revach v'atzal l'lamed Yehuda, that salvation and Yeshua's everything, all good things will come to all the Jewish people as a whole, every individual. All these things that we ask for, our she'elas and our bakashas will come through, and in a beautiful open way. And all of our enemies will see that no matter how much they try to flood us, it can't be mechabe the great love that Hashem has for His people. And in Mirz Hashem, we should see this. This should be the Purim that brings this about. We should all be zeicha to this, to have a lichtig freilich and Purim filled with emunah and betachon that brings these things about. Okay, shkoyach.